Okay, I'm here with a 2019 Unity, and today we're going to replace the isolator solenoid and isolator delay relay, which is under the passenger seat. So one of the first things I do is I pop this cover off, and you can feel there's little clips right here. You just press them down and this cover will pop up. All right, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to remove the seat, and that's going to take a number 11 or 11 millimeter 6-headed socket. This is a Torx head, but a normal 6-headed socket will work too. So you have to swivel the seat around to get all those out. There's one on each corner. And then we're going to lay, I already put down some cardboard in the back. Then we're going to lay the seat down behind here so we can get to the seat base and remove this cover. So I'll be back. All right, so here we are under the passenger seat. We have the isolator solenoid. We have the isolator delay relay. Sometimes it's installed on a piece of wood. Sometimes it's just stuck to the sidewall. But bottom line, this little box with 3 wires, a blue wire, a black, and a red. That's the isolator delay relay. And basically this delays the solenoid from closing until the chassis side says that it has enough voltage and it's good to go. And then the isolator solenoid closes, and that starts your house battery charging. So this is the house battery connection. This is the chassis battery connection. And these are the things that we'll be putting on our 60 amp circuit breakers. And in the meantime, I'm just going to go ahead as part of removing. Now, in the case of this 2019, my friend had her house batteries have already failed. They were lead acid batteries, and she had them removed. So there's no house batteries in the battery box right now. I haven't disconnected the chassis side, and I'm not going to. I'm just going to be very careful. But I do advise people to go ahead and disconnect the chassis battery down at the driver's accelerator pedal. You know, just so you don't have any mistakes shorting. But still always treat these two connections, these battery connections, as hot, because there is some residual voltage on them. So, you know, I just hate to short things. That's how fuses get blown. So just always, I just treat everything as hot. So we will, actually I'm just going to cut, this red wire. I'm going to cut the black wire to the isolator relay delay. And I'm going to cut this white ground wire off the bottom terminal, because I don't use the connectors of anything, and we're going to be getting rid of this isolator delay. So we can just go ahead and cut those off and not worry about fooling around with nuts and removing them. And then I'll get to removing these. These are 13 millimeter nuts. So let me get to doing that, and I'll come back. Okay, so you can see I removed that isolator relay delay. I just cut those wires. In this little thing, I've put the blue wire. I don't know if you can see it, but there's the blue ignition wire that came from the isolator delay relay, and there's the white ground wire that came off of the isolator solenoid. So I just tucked those in. The blue wire is hot because we're still connected. I didn't disconnect the chassis battery, so you know, I just tucked that away because I don't want to risk that touching anything metal. So we'll pull that out when we're ready to use it. Okay, I have a 13 millimeter socket, and I have an insulated ratchet wrench. So like I said, I'm going to treat these as they're hot. So I'm basically going to loosen both of these, and I have my house battery circuit breaker ready. So when I remove the house battery wire, which is this wire, when I remove this house battery cable from the isolator solenoid, I'm going to be immediately putting it on this connector on my 60 amp house circuit breaker. And then I'm going to be doing the same thing with the chassis battery. I have the chassis battery circuit breaker over here in this tangle of stuff that I prepared. There it is. So I'm going to do that and remove the isolator solenoid and connect those circuit breakers and the new isolator relay to this board, and I'll come back. Okay, so I have the house battery circuit breaker. Now the funny thing is, on these circuit breakers, those little rubber caps that you put over the connectors, they won't snap on the end of the terminal. So I've had to tape both of the ends, and the same on the chassis battery side. So I've taped those caps on just as a protective feature for those terminals. Anyway, okay, so I've got those. I've got the house circuit breaker in place. I have the chassis circuit breaker in place. I have the isolator, the new isolator relay screwed onto the board. I still have to make my connections to the ground and the blue wire, which is inside this little wire pack, so I'm going to do that next. And then I still have the Echo Charge and the Battery Sense to place after I get the Kisae in. So I'm going to go ahead and finish these splices and get my little grating stand and the Kisae in place, and I'll come back. Okay, I pulled the blue and the white wires out so I could make their connections. The blue wire is connected to my taped blue wire, which again is position 86 on the relay, and the white wire, which is ground, is hooked to the black wire, which the ground on the 120 isolator relay is position 85. So those are all connected. I'll be zip tying all this stuff out of the way, but now it's time to get my Kisae stand in and the Kisae in, so I will do that and come back and show you. All right, I zip tied the my little grill stand down in a few spots to some secure to the heavier cables and more secure points down here on the floor. And now it's time to put my Kisae in, and I'm gonna let it hang off the back there so I know the back end is going to get good ventilation. Yeah, probably about right there. And I'll go ahead and zip tie that down, and then we can start making all of our connections. All right, so I've got the Kisae mounted, and I'm going to start with my chassis ground bolt. And what we're putting on the chassis, what I'm adding to the chassis are these two, which is the Xantrex. I'm adding the grounds for the Xantrex ECHO Charge and the Victron Smart Sense. So I'm going to be putting these two terminals over on that ground bolt, and then I'm going to go ahead and put the Battery Sense. It has double-sided, it comes with double-sided tape, so I'm just going to stick it to the Kisae case, and then I'm probably going to zip tie the Echo Charge down here in this vacant area. So let me do that and I'll come back. Okay, I have got the Xantrex ECHO charge hooked up. I've got my grounds hooked up, so I still have to hook up my house and chassis battery cables. Like I said, the chassis is going to go here, and the house is going to go here. So I still have to hook those up. But I've got the ECHO charge zip tied in place. I'll have to clean up, zip tie the wires and clean that up once I get that hooked up. All right, so let me hook those positive cables to the Kisae, and then I'll come back. All right, I made my positive house battery and chassis battery connection on the Kisae, so now that's all done. Make sure you check your on-off switch down here. Make sure it's on, so when you start the system up, it's going to power right up when you close the house battery circuit breaker. All right, so last but not least, I have all the negatives, and I'm going to put them on that ground bolt right there, 17 millimeter. So I'll do that next. But just to recap, I did a preparation video that told about all these connections. So you might want to watch that, because I go into great detail how everything is connected. But as a summary, we have a house and a chassis battery circuit breaker, which we connected the house cable, which is right here. The house cable from the isolator solenoid went here. The chassis battery cable from the isolator solenoid went here. The blue ignition wire from the isolator delay relay went on position 86 of the isolator relay. The ground from the isolator solenoid went to position 85, the ground for the relay. And then from each circuit breaker, like the house circuit breaker, I ran another wire to make the connection on the Kisae. The same with the, well, let's stick with the house. Okay, so I put another wire on the opposite terminal to make the house battery connection on the Kisae. I connected the red house battery wire of the Xantrex ECHO charge to that same terminal. So that completed the house side. Then on the chassis battery side, I took a cable and went from the chassis battery to the isolator relay, position number 30. And then I took another 6-gauge cable from position number 87, and it runs to the Kisae. Also on the chassis battery connection, I added the Victron Battery Sense positive and the Xantrex starter battery red striped wire. So now we have everything connected. And like I said, I just have to do the ground. So I will get my 17 millimeter socket and go ahead and do that and come back. All right, so now I have everything installed. I still, I see I still have to, that wire's okay. I think I will put another zip tie over here just to hold it out of the way. Anyway, so we are, I've got everything installed. I put the Xantrex chassis battery fuse up here in this panel opening, so in case my friend ever had to disconnect the house battery charging from the chassis battery, she could just reach in here and pop this fuse open, and, you know, disconnect it from there. Or if she was going to say go to Mercedes and have some kind of electrical work, she, you know, they don't want to be surprised, because the house battery and the chassis battery are basically joined by this Xantrex ECHO charge. So she can come in here and disconnect this fuse, and that will basically turn off the Xantrex ECHO charge. So you always want to plan that to where you have a way to turn off the chassis battery charger and disconnect it from the house battery, depending on, you know, the situations you encounter. Okay, I've got my all my ground wires there on the ground bolt. So let me put a couple more zip ties on, and we'll come back and start this up and do the settings. Okay, we are ready to start up the Kisae, and we're going to do that by closing this house battery circuit breaker. First I close the house battery circuit breaker because that turns it on, and then I do all the settings, and then I close the chassis battery circuit breaker, and then we start the engine and we make sure, you know, that it's actually functioning. But I always have to I always have to get my settings. Now she has an epoch, I don't even know how to pronounce it, epoch battery, lithium battery, and they say the bulk absorption voltage should be 14.4 and the float voltage should be 13.8, which seems awfully high for a lithium battery. I think I'll put it on 13.6 because I just think that's way too high for a lithium battery, but you know, that's what the company recommends, but you know, I'm not going to do it. I think it's too high. Okay, so all right, so we're going to close this, and you should immediately hear the fan turn on, and we'll boot it up. Oh, one thing, make sure your on-off switch is on, because you might have toggled it off when you were screwing in stuff. So make sure that's on. All right, so here we go. There's the fan. Shazam, it's on. Success. Okay. Now, I always have to read my instructions how to do this. All right, we press the info button for 3 seconds, and then we scroll through to lithium, and we hit next, and then we want to set, whoops, wrong thing. Okay, then we want to set this to 14.4, next. Float, we want float to be 13.6, next. We want output to be 50, next. And we want the, I can't remember what the L factor is. Oh, it's the lithium termination current. We want that to be set at 10. Okay, so then I just like to scroll through to make sure that everything stayed. Sometimes, I don't know why, but sometimes I find that the settings have changed. So I just like to scroll through them and make sure. Now that popping, that's in these buttons. Okay, so then in a few seconds, that's going to it's going to go back into its normal operation mode. There you go. And so before we start the engine, we are going to close the circuit breaker for the chassis battery, and now we'll start the engine. And it usually takes a few seconds before the Kisae kicks on. And there it is. Voltage is building. Amperage is building. All right, looks like we got about 46 amps charging the battery. Hooray! Okay, now we can also see, oh, you can go ahead and turn that off now. All right, so we can also see this little blue light that's flashing. That says the Victron Battery Sense is working. And then over here we have our Xantrex ECHO charge, and the green light on is says it's working. So so everything's working in here, thankfully. Haha, done right the first time. And so now we will put the we'll do the ventilation modification for the top of the seat base before we put the seat back on. So I'll do that and come back. Okay, so I cut out an opening in this top cover for our screen, so we have plenty of ventilation. You can see the Kisae down there, so it can get lots of air and breathe, and that's good. It's really good about it never overheats. Mine's never overheated, and I don't even hear the fan noise. So, and then I cut the same square out. So now all we have to do is drop the seat back on, put the bolts back in, and our project is done. So let me do that. I'll come back and we'll show you that. Okay, she downloaded her Victron Connect app. Now we're going to go to the Smart Battery Sense. This is the chassis battery voltage reader, and it's working. We're going to hit the 3 dots. Oh, they want you to change your pin code. Do 6 ones. No, 6 ones. I think that's easy. We're really tired. We're getting tired. Oh wait, you gotta do it again. Repeat. Okay. Let's hit OK. Go to the 3 dots. Product info. I always change the name to whoops. Oh, enable live data. Okay, so just delete that. Yeah, delete that and type in Luan battery voltage, or no, chassis battery. Chassis. IS battery. And that's good. Okay. Say okay. It'll truncate it. See how it says it truncates it because you only get so many digits. Okay.
Oh, okay.
So, all right. So we're done with that. And there we go. So, anyway, so here's the battery voltage. So we got the battery.
I have a question.
What?
So you called it the chassis battery. Isn't that the house battery?
No, this Lynn's chassis battery reader, that's that little blue box that I installed on top of the Kisae. I don't know if you noticed that.
Okay.
That little blue thing, that's the Bluetooth chassis battery voltage reader. So you can always check your chassis battery with this by clicking on Luann's chassis battery, and it gives you a little snippet of data, so you don't even have to open it up. You can just look at it and see what your chassis battery voltage is. Now that temperature reading we can change to Fahrenheit, but it's just reading under the seat, so you don't really need it. So this completes the installation of a total battery charging system for your 2019 and older leisure travel van.